Hey, what's up guys, Jamie here, and in today's video we're going to be looking at the Ionic 4 chip. And the chip in Ionic is just an element or a component which you can use to display information in some sort of just container like this. It kind of looks like a little bubble. And so this is common if you're creating like an autocomplete or some sort of tag system inside of your application. And so we're going to be looking at a bunch of different examples, some common use cases, and let's jump into the code. I just have my own blank project right here. If you don't have your own blank project or just some project where you can add in the code for the chip, be sure to check out my video on getting started in Ionic 4, and then we'll get you set up with your own project. But assuming you have that set up, let's just get started here with the Ion chip. Okay, so that's the element name. You just put Ion chip just like this. And with just this small amount of code right here, it will work. Okay. And by the way, in the docs, they say to put this inside of an Ion label, and that is technically best practice. We'll look at that in a second, but I just want to show you what this looks like at first. So this is the chip right here. This is what it looks like by default. Okay, and we're going to look at like coloring this and stuff in a second. But first, I just want to point out that the recommended way by Ionic to do the Ionic chip is to put a label inside of it like this, Ion label. Now for the most basic example, that doesn't really matter. If I save this, you'll see that they look exactly the same. One has an Ion label inside of it and the other does not. So you can see they look exactly the same. You can click them and they have this nice animation. And the reason why they have you do the Ion label is because like when we start doing more advanced things like adding in icons and so forth, like inside of the chip, then the Ion label plays nicer with those things, and so that's why they recommend you put the Ion label inside of there. Alright, let's move on to another example here. This one is, we're just going to change the color to be the secondary color right here. And this is the color of the label inside of the chip. So we are able to change the color of the chip as well, but this is just changing the label color inside of it. So I'll save that and show you what that looks like. So this is exactly the same as the other one, except for the color is secondary. And by the way, those are defined in the variables.scss. We got the primary color, secondary color right here. So this one will be a light blue color. Alright, so let's check that out. Okay, there we go. So again, like the outside, like the background chip, that's exactly the same, but the color is that light blue color. Okay, so let's go back and check out the next example. Alright, next example is we're going to change the color of the chip to be the secondary color, and then the text inside of it to be dark. Okay, because by default, the text is just going to be some kind of black color, but inside of the variables.scss, towards the bottom here, there's something called dark. Okay, and so you can change that in your theme if you want. And this is kind of like a dark blue for us. It's like the default is the dark blue. So again, this one just has the secondary as the background, and the text inside of it will be that dark blue color. So let's check that out. Okay, there we go. There's our light blue as the background. And you might be noticing that like the secondary color for the text inside of this one is different from the background color right here for the chip. Well, that's because inside of the variables.scss, if we go all the way up to secondary, there are different like variations of this color. So like this secondary right here, I'm pretty sure this is the one that's being used for the text inside of this. It's like the default for the text. And then down here there are some different ones like the tint and the shade. And so the different components inside of Ionic, they each pull from different ones of these colors depending on which component they are. And so if it's not looking like you intend it to, then just go inside of your variables.scss and then change the appropriate color. Okay, we're going to be putting an Ion icon inside of the chip. And remember how I said that the Ion label plays nice with the Ion icon? Well, now we're going to see exactly what I mean by that. So if we save that, we just have a regular chip and then an Ion icon inside of the chip before the label. Okay, and it is the pin icon, by the way. then we'll see that we get this this nicely spaced icon right here, right before the label. And you can put as many of these icons in the chip as you want. You can put them on both sides. It can have only an icon, both sides of the text. Whatever you want to do, you can just sort of reorder them inside of there. Let's look at some more examples of just that. So this time we're doing another icon, and this one's going to be the dark color. So we can also color the icon as well. So let's check out the dark heart inside of our Ion icon. Okay, so there is the heart. So now you can kind of see the difference between that dark color and then like the regular text color, which is over here. Okay, so that's just this example right there with the dark heart. And then now let's look at an example with a label at the start and then the icon at the end of it. So this one is going to mimic sort of like maybe an autocomplete field or something like that. Something where you like click on this closed circle icon and then it makes the chip go away. This is like common for tags in an app or something like that. Alright, and next example we're going to have two icons. Okay, so one on both sides of the Ion label. Alright, so this one is exactly the same except for just one more icon on the left hand side as well. Okay, so let's check that one out. We've got a colored pin at the start and then an X at the end of it. So, yep, you guys are probably getting the hang of this now. It also is able to have avatars in them. Ionic has its own element for what's called an avatar. In the future, I'll do a video on that, so if you're curious about more what an avatar is, be sure to check out my video on the Ion avatar. I'll have that linked at some point in the future as an annotation. But for now, just realize that it's some sort of icon representing the user, and so we're able to put that in here as well. And so if I go back and then save this, and then go back over here and reload the page, we'll see we have this icon right here, which is representative of the user. So it's some sort of user avatar icon, and it's just grabbing the that image from this URL right here. So if we grab that URL and we went into that in a new tab, we would see it's just the location of this plain image file, and that's being wrapped up inside of the Ion avatar. Alright, another thing you can do is you can configure it to be an outline instead of just a solid chip. You can have it actually be an outline chip. So I'll show you that as well. So here we go, here's the outline one. And so you can see it's just styled right here as an outline instead of a solid chip. Alright, next example I want to show you, the other thing you can really configure with the Ion chip is going to be like the mode of either iOS or MD. So in Ionic there are two stylings. There's one for like Safari and iOS, and then there's another one for Chrome and as well as Android. And so MD is the Chrome and Android one, and then iOS is the Safari and iPhone one. So if we save that and check it out, we'll see for this one, I'm not really sure why they included it. Like you can see in the docs here, it's just this mode attribute. Mode is either iOS or MD. And you see we set mode as iOS and MD. But if we look at on our site, they look exactly the same. So I'm not really sure if that's a bug with them or I'm just missing something. But maybe that will work at some point in the future, just letting you know that you can also configure the mode of this. Alright, now let's get to one more thing that really cool you can do, which is like have it so you click on it and then it does something. So let's make another outline chip over here, and then just maybe register a click event with the entire chip itself. So to do that, we'll just register with the click event in Angular like this. Okay, and then on click, I'm going to call a function called, I want to rename this chip to be, let's say, my event. And then when we click the chip, it's going to call a function called start my event. All right. And then inside of the home page, going to make that function start my event. So this is just in the corresponding TypeScript file for the HTML file that I'm in right here. And then inside of here, I'm just going to console.log my event works. Okay. And then, so this function will be called right here when we click this ion chip. Then if we go and check that out, click my event, and then it says my event works. And it works as many times as we click it. And then on the other hand, you could also just have it so that, like if we had an ion label and an ion icon inside of this, we could just have it so that clicking only the label or only the icon did something. Probably only the icon in this case, since it's close. So instead of registering the event right here, we could register the event right here with only the icon. So this might be if you want something to happen if you click the close icon on this particular chip. So I'll change the name of this one right here to my event 2. Okay, and then if we refresh that, we should see that when we click only the X, does it log my event works. So the number will go up if I click on the icon, but if I click on just the chip itself, then it will not perform any additional operations over here. No more my event works, only when I click on the icon itself. Alright guys, and that is it for the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos like this. And also, if you have any comments or feedback from me, I'd love to hear it. And just leave it in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.